What if Germany's biggest industrial icon no longer builds its future at home? If you want to pick a single German company that represents the absolute peak of engineering, discipline, and industrial excellence, you don't need to look far. There is one corporation that has stood taller than almost every competitor in its field: BASF. Founded in 1865, BASF grew from a modest dye manufacturer into the world's largest chemical producer, a global titan operating in everything, from plastics and coatings to advanced life science chemicals. Over the decades, BASF built a presence in over 80 countries, with production sites in almost every major industrial region in the world. For more than a century and a half, BASF wasn't just a company, it was a symbol, a representation of what Germany stood for: engineering mastery, high-quality manufacturing, relentless innovation, industrial leadership. The phrase "made in Germany" carried weight because companies like BASF made it meaningful. But while Germany is struggling, stuck in its longest economic stagnation in generations, BASF just completed one of its biggest, most futuristic industrial projects ever. But this project tells a story Germany doesn't want to hear: a $10 billion BASF mega complex. But not in Germany. BASF recently opened the first phase of a $9 to $10 billion mega complex, designed to become the most advanced, most sustainable chemical facility ever built by the company. This site includes state-of-the-art energy-efficient plants, integrated production systems, facilities for next-gen materials, and a blueprint for the future of green industry. You would think Germany must be celebrating, but no. Because this giant complex, this futuristic dream, is not being built in Germany. It is being built 9,000 kilometers away in China. Think about how dramatic that is. The world's top German chemical producer building its biggest project ever, not in Germany, not in Europe, but in China. If you understand German history, this moment is almost symbolic, the moment Germany's industrial era moved overseas. And this one fact alone shows how serious the crisis has become. Germany, Europe's engine, is now running on fumes. Germany has spent decades being called Europe's economic powerhouse, the engine of the EU, a global manufacturing miracle. But today, the reality is very different. Germany is in its fourth straight year of recession. Industrial output has barely grown since, that's 20 years of stagnation. The country has lost 250,000 manufacturing jobs in just 4 years. Once when people said, when Germany sneezes, Europe catches a cold, they meant Germany was too important to fail. Today, Germany is not sneezing, it's coughing nonstop, and Europe is getting sick. Factories are struggling, consumers are worried, energy is expensive, companies are quietly shifting production abroad. How did Germany, the world's most respected engineering nation, end up here? The answer lies in a perfect storm of global forces. The country Germany helped rise is now overtaking it. For 20 years, China was the dream market for German manufacturers. China needed German machinery, cars, engineering, and industrial technology. Germany's export boom between 2000 and 2015 was fueled heavily by China's rapid growth. But that era is over. China no longer wants to buy German machines. China now wants to build machines better and cheaper, and they are doing exactly that. Between 2020 and 2025, Chinese machinery exports to Europe surged 60%. German machinery exports to China fell 20%. Chinese companies now produce similar quality machines for 30% lower prices. This is the same phenomenon American economists once called the China shock. Back then, between 1991 and 2007, China's rise wiped out 1 million U.S. manufacturing jobs. Now, a similar shock is hitting Germany. Even worse, China is Germany's #1 market for companies like Mercedes, BMW, and Volkswagen. Yet Chinese EV manufacturers, BYD, NIO, Speng, are destroying German car sales inside China itself. Imagine the humiliation. Germany built China's industry. Now China is dismantling Germany's. Trump's tariffs and U.S. pressure are shaking German industry. China isn't the only force hitting German industry. The United States, historically an ally and major market, is changing too. Under Trump-era tariffs, reimposed and expanded, German exports to the U.S. fell 7.4% in a single year. And tensions are growing because the U.S. wants Europe to reduce dependency on China. Germany says it cannot afford to leave China, and German companies refuse to cut back investment in China because profits are too high. German workers pay the price when production moves abroad. So while America pushes for economic decoupling, Germany gets caught in the middle. Cheap Russian gas is gone, and Germany's factories are paying the price. For decades, Germany enjoyed a massive advantage: cheap natural gas from Russia. This cheap energy-powered chemical plants, steel factories, auto manufacturing, heating systems, industrial furnaces. But after the Russia-Ukraine war, that entire energy model collapsed. Now Germany relies on expensive LNG. Factories face energy bills that sometimes tripled. Companies like BASF, which are extremely energy-intensive, had only one choice: move production to countries with cheaper energy, like China. This is exactly why the BASF mega-complex isn't in Germany. Germany simply cannot afford its own industry anymore. Germany's middle stand, the backbone of industry, is quietly breaking. Germany's industrial strength wasn't only in giants like BASF, Siemens, or Volkswagen. Its real power came from the Mittelstand, small and medium-sized, family-owned industrial companies that dominate niche fields globally. But now many of them are collapsing. Take Trump, the global laser and machine tool giant. In October 2025, they reported their first financial loss since 2008, a 16% drop in sales and 3 straight years of decline in new orders. Other major companies, Bosch, Continental, ZF, Porsche, Rosenthal, have announced tens of thousands of job cuts, factory closures, or production shifts to Asia and Eastern Europe. Germany's once unstoppable industrial heart is slowing, and in some areas, stopping entirely. The world has changed much, but Germany hasn't kept up. External forces are only half the story. Germany is also suffering because its own economic model is outdated. The world is moving toward electric mobility, artificial intelligence, robotics, software-driven products, renewable energy, but Germany still relies heavily on traditional engineering, diesel engines, and legacy manufacturing sectors. The education system is lagging. Fewer German students are studying engineering. Very few pursue AI or data science. Germany has less than 2 AI startups per 100,000 people. The US and UK each have over 5 per 100,000. Germany is innovating too slowly. Other countries are innovating too fast. And the gap is growing every year. Even the best factories fail without skilled hands to run them. Germany's industrial decline isn't just about machines or money. It's also about people. For decades, the country prided itself on its highly skilled workforce, trained through the famous dual education system, a perfect combination of classroom, theory, and hands-on apprenticeship. This system once ensured that Germany produced engineers, technicians, and craftsmen who could operate the world's most advanced factories. But today, that system is under immense strain. Fewer students are entering STEM fields. Vocational schools struggle to adapt to new technologies like AI. Robotics, additive manufacturing, and experienced engineers retire faster than replacements are trained. This skills gap is creating a hidden crisis. Factories are slowing down, projects are delayed, and companies increasingly rely on foreign talent, sometimes relocating operations abroad. Even a company as large as BASF faces this challenge. Their cutting-edge chemical plants, no matter how technologically advanced, still need highly skilled operators, engineers, and maintenance teams to function efficiently. Without solving the workforce crisis, Germany risks losing not only production efficiency but also global competitiveness. And the stakes are higher than ever. Young engineers are choosing startups or tech companies in the US and China, attracted by higher pay and faster innovation cycles. Germany's aging workforce is creating a structural bottleneck in manufacturing growth. The lack of qualified personnel could turn high-tech projects into underperforming investments. Germany must now retrain, attract, and retain talent. And this requires government incentives, corporate initiatives, and a cultural shift toward valuing manufacturing careers again. Otherwise, even the most advanced German factories could face the same fate as those moving to China. Technology-rich but skill-poor. Germany must choose, lead the future, or watch others take it. Germany has historically been a global leader in engineering innovation. Its cars, machinery, and chemical processes set world standards. But today, the challenge is far more complex. The world is no longer waiting. Competitors in China, the US, and even Eastern Europe are innovating faster, scaling quicker and taking risks Germany avoids. Electric vehicles. Chinese EV companies like BYD, NIO, Xpeng are capturing domestic markets and exporting aggressively. German automakers lag in EV innovation and production efficiency. Artificial intelligence. Germany has less than 2 AI startups per 100,000 people, while the US and UK each have more than 5. AI-driven. Automation and predictive maintenance are transforming industries worldwide, but German companies risk falling behind. Green technology. Countries like Denmark, the Netherlands, and China are leading in sustainable energy and circular manufacturing, while Germany's transition is slower and bureaucratically hindered. Innovation isn't just about technology, it's about speed, risk-taking, and vision. German companies often wait for perfect conditions, regulatory clarity, or market guarantees before acting. Meanwhile, global competitors iterate, fail fast, learn, and dominate. The result? German companies lose contracts to faster innovators. Investments abroad appear more profitable than domestic innovation. Germany's global influence as an industrial leader erodes slowly but surely. The choice for Germany is stark: lead boldly or watch others take the lead. Germany's factories are only as strong as the supply chains that feed them, and those chains are cracking. Germany has long relied on complex, international supply chains for raw materials, machinery, and advanced components. Global disruptions are testing the resilience of these networks like never before. Trade tensions with the US and China make key components more expensive or delayed. Energy costs and geopolitical instability drive raw material prices sky high. COVID-19 and pandemic-related logistics. Bottlenecks have exposed vulnerabilities that still haven't been fully resolved. For German industrial giants like BASF, Volkswagen, and Bosch, these challenges mean delays in production schedules, increased operational costs, and difficulty meeting international contracts on time. Even small suppliers in Germany are affected. Many Mittelstand companies cannot absorb these costs, forcing them to cut jobs, reduce production, or move facilities abroad. The lesson is clear. Germany's industrial might is tightly linked to global stability. Without stronger, more resilient supply chains, Germany risks losing competitive advantage in almost every sector. In Germany, red tape often moves faster than innovation itself. Even when German companies try to innovate, bureaucracy slows them down. Permits for new factories, environmental approvals, and infrastructure projects often take years instead of months. Funding programs for research and development exist but are fragmented and overly complex. Startups face regulatory hurdles that stifle agility, making it easier for foreign competitors to dominate emerging markets. The irony is harsh. Germany invented the Industrial Revolution, yet its own regulatory system now slows industrial progress. For example, companies attempting to build renewable energy plants or invest in AI-powered factories are often delayed by multi-layered approvals, compliance costs, and environmental and labor regulations that, while important, are overly restrictive compared to global competitors. This bureaucratic inertia discourages risk-taking, reduces global competitiveness, and pushes companies to move production abroad where rules are simpler and returns are faster. Unless Germany reforms its regulatory framework, innovation will continue to flee the country, leaving behind only legacy industries. Germany can still reclaim its industrial glory, but only if it acts now. Germany is at a pivotal moment in its history. The combination of global competition, domestic challenges, skills shortages, energy crises, and outdated regulatory frameworks has created a perfect storm. The options are stark: bold industrial reform, revamp education, cut bureaucratic delays, invest heavily in AI, EVs, green tech, strategic global partnerships, strengthen ties with reliable trade partners while reducing overdependence on any single market like China. Domestic revitalization, encourage innovation hubs, fund startups, incentivize companies to keep critical production at home. Without decisive action, Germany risks losing its role as Europe's industrial leader, becoming dependent on foreign countries for critical technology, and watching jobs, skills, and economic power shift overseas. But with vision, strategy, and courage, Germany can reclaim its position at the forefront of global industry, blending traditional engineering excellence with 21st century innovation. The clock is ticking. The question is, will Germany act before it's too late? Germany's factories don't just compete with companies, they compete with geopolitics. Germany's industrial landscape is no longer determined purely by engineering, efficiency, or innovation. Global politics now shapes every decision. For decades, Germany relied on predictable trade, energy, and diplomatic relationships, cheap Russian natural gas-fueled chemical plants, steel mills, and automotive factories. Stable EU and transatlantic partnerships allowed German companies to export and invest confidently. China's early demand for German machinery, vehicles, and technology created decades of growth. But the modern era is a different story. The Russia-Ukraine war ended Germany's cheap energy era. Gas that once cost 15 per megawatt now costs 90-100 per MWh on the spot market. For energy-intensive industries like BASF, this is billions in extra annual costs. Factories face the impossible choice: absorb costs, pass them to customers, or relocate production abroad. U.S.-China tensions have forced German companies into a strategic dilemma. BMW, Volkswagen, and BASF rely heavily on China for sales and production, yet the U.S. pressures Germany to decouple from China. Companies are stuck. Reducing Chinese exposure hurts profits. Maintaining it risks political fallout. EU energy and trade policies are evolving, introducing carbon taxes, stricter emission rules, and regulations on critical materials. While intended to protect the environment, these policies increase operational complexity and costs, making Germany less competitive globally. The consequences are significant. Investment decisions are now dictated, as much by geopolitical strategy as by economic logic. Factories relocating to Asia or North America are not failures. They're hedges against political risk. Even domestic projects are delayed because politicians debate which international alliances to prioritize. Companies now operate in an environment where every expansion, acquisition, or R&D project is weighed against potential geopolitical fallout. Germany's industrial advantage, once built on engineering excellence, is now contingent on foreign policy and global stability. The urgent takeaway: Germany cannot rebuild industrial strength without integrating geopolitical strategy into corporate planning, ensuring that factories remain resilient not just to market forces, but to political upheavals around the world. Germany's industrial empire stands at a fork in the road. Reinvention or slow decline. Germany's industrial story has reached a critical inflection point. The cumulative pressures are immense. Competition from China and the U.S., skills shortages in engineering and technology, energy price spikes, bureaucratic inefficiencies, geopolitical uncertainty. Every factor threatens Germany's global leadership in manufacturing. But the opportunity for reinvention is equally real. The technological imperative. German companies must embrace advanced technologies, AI and automation. Factories can double output and reduce error rates. But Germany currently lags in AI adoption. Electric vehicles. German automakers must compete with China's BYD, Xpeng, NIO, renewable and green tech. Energy-intensive. Industries like chemicals and steel must transition to sustainable processes or risk prohibitive energy costs. Without these shifts, German industrial products will lose their competitive edge globally. Workforce transformation. Innovation is meaningless without skilled labor. Germany must revitalize vocational education, integrate AI, robotics, and EV manufacturing, retain engineers and technicians with competitive salaries, and attract international talent to supplement domestic shortages. Without skilled hands, even the most advanced factories can underperform or fail entirely. Strategic global positioning. Germany cannot isolate itself. Diversify supply chains to avoid overdependence on any single country, maintain exports to China and the U.S. while exploring new markets in Southeast Asia, Africa, and South America. Balance profitability with national industrial security. The global industrial arena now favors agile, multi-market operations, not single-country dominance. Regulatory and bureaucratic reform. Germany's complex bureaucracy slows innovation. Streamlined permits for factories and infrastructure, incentives for high-tech startups and manufacturing initiatives, flexible environmental compliance mechanisms for emerging industries. The goal is to accelerate action without compromising standards. The choice for Germany. The next decade will determine the fate of German industry. Reinvention through aggressive investment in technology, workforce development, and global strategy, or decline through reliance on legacy industries, bureaucratic delays, and slow adaptation. The opportunity remains. Germany has capital, experience, and engineering culture, but it needs bold leadership and vision. The question every policymaker, CEO, and citizen must face is, will Germany rise as a 21st century industrial leader, or watch its crown slip quietly into foreign hands? The consequences are significant. Investment decisions are now dictated, as much by geopolitical strategy as by economic logic. Factories relocating to Asia or North America are not failures. They're hedges against political risk. Even domestic projects are delayed because politicians debate which international alliances to prioritize. Companies now operate in an environment where every expansion, acquisition, or R&D project is weighed against potential geopolitical fallout. Germany's industrial advantage, once built on engineering excellence, is now contingent on foreign policy and global stability. The urgent takeaway: Germany cannot rebuild industrial strength without integrating geopolitical strategy into corporate planning, ensuring that factories remain resilient not just to market forces, but to political upheavals around the world. Germany's industrial empire stands at a fork in the road. Reinvention or slow decline. Germany's industrial story has reached a critical inflection point. The cumulative pressures are immense. Competition from China and the U.S., skills shortages in engineering and technology, energy price spikes, bureaucratic inefficiencies, geopolitical uncertainty. Every factor threatens Germany's global leadership in manufacturing. But the opportunity for reinvention is equally real. The technological imperative. German companies must embrace advanced technologies, AI and automation. Factories can double output and reduce error rates. But Germany currently lags in AI adoption. Electric vehicles. German automakers must compete with China's BYD, Xpeng, NIO, renewable and green tech. Energy-intensive. Industries like chemicals and steel must transition to sustainable processes or risk prohibitive energy costs. Without these shifts, German industrial products will lose their competitive edge globally. Workforce transformation. Innovation is meaningless without skilled labor. Germany must revitalize vocational education, integrate AI, robotics, and EV manufacturing, retain engineers and technicians with competitive salaries, and attract international talent to supplement domestic shortages. Without skilled hands, even the most advanced factories can underperform or fail entirely.